Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest, and sometimes the weddings we think will bring joy become the stage for our greatest betrayals. I never thought I'd be the kind of father who would have to choose between his son's happiness and his own sense of justice, but life has a way of putting you in impossible situations, and my son Trevor's wedding day became one of those moments that changes everything. Trevor had been with Amanda for 3 years. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to genuinely care about my boy. As a widower who raised Trevor alone after his mother passed when he was 12, I was just happy to see him find someone who made him smile. Amanda integrated into our small family perfectly, joining us for Sunday dinners and holiday traditions. She even helped me renovate my garage last spring, getting her hands dirty alongside us like she'd been part of the family forever. My brother Kevin lived about 2 hours away and visited maybe 4 times a year. He was the successful one, owned a tech consulting firm, drove expensive cars, lived in a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Trevor always looked up to his uncle, and Kevin was good with him, taking him to baseball games when he was younger and giving him business advice as an adult. I was grateful Trevor had that male role model, especially since money was always tight for us after my wife died. The engagement party was at Kevin's house last December. It was a beautiful evening, and I remember feeling proud watching Trevor propose again for the cameras, recreating the moment for family photos. Amanda looked radiant in her red dress, laughing and showing off her ring to everyone. But looking back now, I realized there were signs I missed completely. During the party, I noticed Amanda and Kevin talking privately in his kitchen. It seemed innocent enough, just family getting to know each other better. But their conversation went on for almost 20 minutes, and when I walked in to grab drinks, they both seemed startled and quickly separated. Amanda's face was flushed, and Kevin immediately started talking about the weather like he was nervous about something. Over the next few months, planning the wedding consumed all our time. Trevor worked overtime to save money, and I contributed what I could from my modest savings. Amanda seemed stressed about details, constantly on her phone, making calls she'd take in private. I assumed it was normal bride anxiety, but she also started mentioning Kevin more often in conversation. She'd bring up something funny he said or ask if he was definitely coming to certain events. 2 weeks before the wedding, Kevin called me unexpectedly on a Tuesday evening. He sounded strange, different somehow. "Hey brother, I need to talk to you about something important," he said, his voice tight with tension. "What's going on?" I asked. There was a long pause. "It's about Amanda. There's something you and Trevor need to know." My stomach dropped. "What about Amanda?" Another pause, even longer this time. "You know what, never mind, I'll handle it. Just make sure Trevor's happy, okay?" The call ended abruptly, leaving me confused and worried. I tried calling back 3 times, but Kevin didn't answer. I thought about telling Trevor, but what would I even say? That his uncle made a cryptic phone call 2 weeks before his wedding. It seemed cruel to create anxiety over something so vague. The wedding day arrived unseasonably warm for October. The ceremony was at St. Mary's, the same church where I married Trevor's mother 28 years earlier. The morning flew by in a blur of last-minute preparations, photographs, and nervous energy. Trevor looked handsome in his black tuxedo, practically glowing with excitement. His best man Thomas helped him with his tie, while I adjusted his boutonniere, feeling that familiar mixture of pride and melancholy that comes with watching your child reach major milestones. Amanda was stunning in her white dress, but she seemed anxious during the pre-ceremony photos. She kept checking her phone and scanning the crowd like she was looking for someone specific. The photographer had to ask her multiple times to focus on the camera. "Everything okay?" I asked her during a quiet moment. She forced a smile. "Just wedding day nerves, you know." Kevin arrived 20 minutes before the ceremony, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. His usually perfect hair was messy, his tie was crooked, and he seemed to be avoiding eye contact with everyone. He found me in the back of the church. "We need to talk," he whispered urgently. "Kevin, the ceremony starts in 15 minutes. Whatever it is can wait." He grabbed my arm. "No, it really can't wait. This is important." But before he could explain, the wedding coordinator announced it was time to begin. Kevin looked like he wanted to say something else, but the music started and everyone took their positions. I walked Amanda down the aisle since her father had passed away years earlier. She had asked me months ago, and I was honored to do it. But as we walked, I could feel tension radiating from her. Her hand on my arm was trembling, and she kept glancing toward where Kevin was sitting in the 3rd row. The ceremony began beautifully. Pastor Williams spoke about love, commitment, and the importance of honesty in marriage. Trevor's vows were heartfelt and personal, talking about how Amanda had brought light back into his life and how excited he was to build a future together. There wasn't a dry eye in the church, including mine. Then it was Amanda's turn. She stood there for what felt like an eternity, just staring at Trevor. The church was completely silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Something was very wrong. "Amanda," Trevor whispered, concerned. She looked out at the congregation, her eyes finding Kevin. Then she looked at Trevor, tears streaming down her face. "I can't do this," she whispered, but the church was so quiet that everyone heard her. Trevor's face went pale. "What do you mean?" Amanda took a shaky breath. "I'm so sorry, Trevor. You deserve better than this. You deserve someone who loves you completely." I don't understand, Trevor said, his voice breaking. The entire church was frozen in shock, 200 people holding their breath, waiting for whatever was coming next. Amanda's voice was barely audible. I love someone else. The gasp from the congregation was audible. Trevor stumbled backward like he'd been physically hit. I started to move toward them, but Amanda wasn't finished. I love Kevin, she said, looking directly at my brother. I've loved Kevin since the engagement party. I tried to fight it. I tried to do the right thing, but I can't marry you when my heart belongs to someone else. The church erupted. People were standing, talking, some were crying. Trevor was staring at Amanda in complete disbelief, then slowly turned to look at Kevin. My brother had his head in his hands, looking absolutely devastated. I felt like I was watching my family explode in slow motion. Trevor's voice cut through all the noise. Kevin, is this true? Kevin stood up slowly. The entire church turned to look at him. His face was red, tears in his eyes. Trevor, I never meant for this to happen. I tried to stay away. I tried to end it, but what? Trevor shouted, but you decided to destroy my life instead. That's when I realized the full scope of what had been happening. The private conversations, the phone calls, Kevin's strange behavior. They'd been having an affair behind Trevor's back for months. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone through every scraped knee and broken heart and difficult moment, was being humiliated in front of everyone who mattered to him. And it was my own brother who had helped make it happen. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I walked straight to the altar microphone that Pastor Williams had stepped away from. The church slowly quieted as they realized I was going to speak. Everyone, please remain seated, I said, my voice surprisingly calm given the storm inside me. There's something else you all need to know. Amanda and Kevin both looked terrified. Trevor was still in shock, staring between his bride and his uncle like he couldn't process what was happening. 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator, I announced. That wasn't true, but I needed to buy time to figure out how to handle this situation. The church was completely silent now. I had suspicions about Amanda's behavior, and I wanted to protect my son. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. Amanda went white as a sheet. Kevin looked like he might be sick. Amanda, you've been lying not just to Trevor, but to all of us. And Kevin, I looked directly at my brother. You've betrayed your own family in the worst possible way. I paused, letting the weight of that sink in. However, I continued, I'm not going to humiliate you further by revealing the details of what I know. You've both humiliated yourselves enough today. I turned to Trevor. Son, let's go home. Your real family is the people who truly love you. As we walked out of that church together, leaving Amanda in her wedding dress and Kevin with his shame, I realized something important. Sometimes protecting the people you love means being willing to face the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Trevor leaned on me as we walked, and for the first time since he was 12 years old, my strong, independent son needed his father to carry him through something, and I was ready to do exactly that. The next morning, Trevor asked me if I really had hired a private investigator. I told him the truth, that I'd suspected something was wrong but hadn't acted on it until it was too late. I should have trusted my instincts sooner, I said. Trevor shook his head. Dad, you couldn't have prevented this. Some people are just going to disappoint you no matter what. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Amanda and Kevin had moved to California together. Trevor started dating someone new, a teacher named Lisa who treats him with the respect and honesty he deserves. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd confronted Kevin after that strange phone call. Would it have prevented the public humiliation? Would Trevor have been hurt less? But then I realized that the truth was going to come out eventually. At least this way, everyone who cared about Trevor saw exactly who Amanda and Kevin really were. There would be no questions, no doubts, no wondering if Trevor had made a mistake. Sometimes the most painful truths are also the most necessary ones. And sometimes, when the people you trust most let you down, you discover that the love between a father and son is strong enough to survive anything.